Capricorn, welcome to your reading. I'm Empress Rose. These are general readings. We take what works, leave what doesn't. Check your other major placements if I don't catch a wavelength here. There was a bit of a snafu, so I'm starting the reading over, but I did think that the cards I already pulled from the Oracle decks, my Moonology and my Urban Crow decks, were important, and I wanted to stick with that. We just have to start over. So they've already been pulled, and they were intense, and so we have wrath and emotions are running high here. So there's a lot of intensity with these two cards, a lot of intensity, and this wrath can be super duper important. As we deal with sort of, anger and wrath are secondary emotions, and then we have that doesn't mean they're not useful, not helpful, and trashy emotions. They're just a strong ego cover up for more vulnerable emotions, sadness, grief, and a sense of fear and vulnerability, right? So then we react with strength, the opposite of what we're feeling. So if we're feeling sad and vulnerable and weak, our ego, which I don't consider to be a terrible thing, responds to defend that. So whatever may be feeling vulnerable here, maybe yourself, maybe a loved one. We are our own loved ones as well. So something might be feeling vulnerable, and the response is going to be very strong and very quick. The trick with wrath, of course, in any of these intense emotions, is once that adrenaline gets going, our higher thinking shuts off, and we can't really function. We're not going to be able to come up with win-win solutions, with great contracts, with problem solving. We get out of that mode, and it's just this intensity. Now, that's very useful in some situations where we need it, but if you need to act, I would say act as little as possible. Do the bare minimum to get yourself out of the situation, so then you can start working with, okay, I got this really intense reaction. This is information to work with, to sort through, to understand and figure out. It's information, right? But we don't want to be necessarily acting straight away, except for immediate safety issues, immediately getting someone out of a dangerous, including ourselves, getting someone out of a dangerous situation, immediately responding. It's a useful, very important emotions. It's going to come in really fast, really strong. And when it does come in, react as much as you need to in order to secure the safety of yourself and whoever else is being, but we don't need to go whole hog into indulging that, because just literally, physiologically, that adrenaline it turns off the more complex thoughts. It's like, we don't need those right now. Just respond physically, right? Or just respond intensely. And that intensity feels so right. And there is something true in it, and there is something right in it. So it is something to be listened to, but it's not something to go along with for a long time. There's a lot of things that need to happen, but it is true, important information to absorb and to take into consideration. So it is a little, it's difficult. It's difficult and tricky to do because there is like a lot of situations where we do have to respond strongly, swiftly, quickly, and that adrenaline comes in for a purpose, for a reason, for survival, for all of that. So it's important to experience that, but it's not, and to honor and to value that as information, but then to allow it to dissipate, allow your body to reabsorb or dispense with the adrenaline before we start making more long-term decisions that have a longer effect on us and our lives. So there could be a moment where there's going to be some really intense emotions coming in here, and anger, which is just notoriously difficult to work with. It's a very useful and important emotion, though. I'm not part of the team anger is bad. Anger is so important. It really lets you know when you're being when you need to protect yourself and you need to take action. So, but allowing those things to settle a little bit before we make any big decisions or really try to negotiate anything. So work through your fears. Well, so this could be like, if you're afraid of wrath, there you go. But this could be about, work through your fears could be about like whatever triggers this wrath. What are you afraid of? What is underneath that wrath? And what is the fear that lies below that? What's going on? So working through them, dealing with openly and honestly with your fears, because that's what lies underneath that wrath. That wrath is important. It helps you take action and make decisions for your best interests and your survival. But it's also really important to look at what's underneath that anger, what's underneath that wrath. What are you afraid of? What are you, and that fear is a very informative feeling as well. So it's just something to look at and gather information on. We don't need to be afraid of information. We don't need to be afraid of that. Just gathering information on ourselves, being very curious, being a detective of your own feelings and your own emotions, and what are you afraid of? And not to say like, well, you shouldn't be afraid of that or afraid of anything. There are legit fears here, right? We are trying to survive, and there are literal threats to our survival and to our emotional health and well-being as well. So looking honestly and openly at those fears and trying to understand them and where they're coming from, because they may be triggering this wrath and this anger, all legit feelings, right? When we think about the King of Cups, we're thinking about an emotional maturity. I don't know why I'm thinking about the King of Cups. I'm thinking about the King of Cups right now. An emotional maturity that understands the role fear plays, that understands the role wrath plays, that understands the role of high intensity emotions, and is able to absorb and handle that. So we're heading towards emotional maturity. This is going to take, though, some looking at what you're afraid of, looking at square in the face, not judgmentally. We're loving ourselves unconditionally throughout this entire process. We're looking at where those fears are creating anger, and we're understanding that emotions are running high. And then there's soar. Very clear direction. I don't know if this comes after or this is integrated into all of this. I don't. But soaring, no obstacles, going straight towards what you want, straight towards you see it, you get it. It's just this direction, this clear direction, this clarity. I mean, that's one thing you got to say about wrath. There's a lot of clarity with it. We also have clarity in this. Emotions are running high. Things are clear. Things are obvious. They're right up in our face. You're soaring. You have a direction to go in. You have a way you want to grow. You want to go. You have something you want to do, and you go directly to it. You don't need to, there's nothing standing in your way. There's a sense of effortlessness here. And a sense of rising above. That's what, rising above a situation, really. But you're going to have to unload the package of fear that's holding you down, that weighs you down. You're going to have to unpack that luggage. And then that frees you up to soar a bit. Yeah, a very clear direction. This is your past, your present, your inner landscape. What's at issue? Your environment, your to-do list, and your possible outcome. These feelings and these emotions change things. They are here for a reason, and they're here to help you change something. And yeah. So I'm chuckling because we have this emotions are running high. You bet your sweet bippy they are. We've got like several emotions here. So we have Page of Emotions, which this Muse deck, the Muse Tarot has emotions for cups, right? We don't have the King of Cups, so we may not be achieving full emotional maturity during this cycle, but we are getting somewhere. With Page of Cups, there are new and surprising emotions and feelings that you have experienced. Could be related to this wrath, this fear. The page is learning, the page is just starting out, discovering, understanding. Whew, there was a feeling here. There's a feeling where you did not expect there to be a feeling. This wrath or these feelings may have caught you very off guard. You were not expecting this. Oh yeah, I'm remembering this really cool meditation about sort of where you visualize like champagne. And the champagne is the piece, and these disturbances, this wrath, these fears, these are just the bubbles that move through it. They create a little excitement on the top. But we have these sort of emotions that bubble up through, and we can visualize our truest self as being at peace while these little disturbances just bubble up and flow through us, and we can let them flow through. We don't need to cling to a moment. We don't need to stay in our wrath. We don't need to stay in our fears, but we must. It is the nature of being champagne to allow these feelings. That's not quite the meditation I remember, but I think it works just as well. So what I see though with this page of emotions is a sense of inner peace, but this sort of bubbling, it's sort of these things coming up, even though it is there. That peace is there, and we might actually, that may have been what surprised us, is this sense of inner peace even through the tumult of being champagne. The excitement and the popped cork of being champagne, and all of those emotions bubbling up and creating this excitement for us, this internal excitement. But at the core, it's a liquid. It's just white wine, and these being alive, and then these emotions add the sparkle. Yeah, so there's something interesting though, as far as like, there's a lot of exploration going on, a lot of surprise here about what you've discovered about something and how you feel about something. You may be very uncomfortable. You may have tried to suppress it, hence this wrath shows up. You may have tried to suppress it but in the past, but now but in the past, it's been revealed, it's been seen, and it's surprised you. There's just a lot to explore, a lot to understand here with your feelings. And there's sort of this, like, I'm seeing an underwater, those scuba parks. There's a lot to explore. There's a whole playground of new emotions down here. And it's sort of like you're scuba diving and you went down and it was like, oh my gosh, what is down here? There is a whole world down here in these feels I got. And it's time to explore that. It's fascinating. It's interesting. So I love this. I love the page of emotions, discovering some sort of emotion, some sort of feeling, good or bad, or pleasant or unpleasant to experience, and starting to explore it. It is that detective mode we were talking about with working through your fears with this new moon in Scorpio, sort of starting that detective journey on like, I wonder why that's there. Why is that there? What do I feel that way? In your current situation, you have Knight of Emotions. This is expressing them, moving forward. This is something's growing, something's developing, some sort of understanding. There's been some emotional growth, and there's been some clarity and some understanding coming in here. You see more and more, but it is time for movement. You might be feeling that. Time for communication of, you've done a lot of internal exploring. We've moved from the page where we've explored our feelings, explored our emotions, and now we're ready to talk about them. I'm never ready to talk about them, but I do. I force myself to do it. But so this Knight of Emotions actually strikes fear in my heart. This is you being ready to move forward, ready to talk about it, ready to express something and move forward with something. You have a lot of feelings. There's something that needs to be expressed. The feeling maybe has grown and developed, or maybe just your understanding of the feelings that you already explored. Oh, that's too late now for my heater there, but so we're going to listen to that for a while. So this communication, time to communicate something. It might be time to communicate your fears, your wrath, your anger about a situation, your frustration about a situation. Emotions are running high. We've had some, this is just emotions. It's just really funny how that one word has showed up multiple times here. So we've explored, we've understood, and it's time to communicate. Maybe things have cooled down a little bit. This page of emotions could be that initial rush of adrenaline and emotion, the emotions running high. It is time to, you are either communicating, we're either talking about our emotions. I don't know if it's time, but you are. There's some movement about something very emotional, and there's some communication about something very emotional. Your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape. Your hopes here are as 9 of materials. So you're hoping for some sort of success. You're hoping for, to be successful. You know, it's not going to be the end-all, be-all conversation. It's not going to be, not everything's going to come up roses, although in this deck it always does. But you're hoping for success. You're hoping to accomplish what you set out to accomplish, maybe communicate. There's also a sense of proprietorship here, of owning something, owning a success that you've worked for, and it's yours, and you're sort of, it is your success. You have been very successful. You have grown what you intended to grow. You have harvested what you intended to harvest. I mean, it's, the 9 of materials never indicates like the end of a process. It indicates a not an end of a process, but a moment of really realizing that you've been successful, you have set out to accomplish something, and you have achieved a mile marker of that thing. There's a sense of control. There's a sense of having planned this out and worked hard for it. So, I mean, 9 of materials, your hopes, what you're thinking about, what we're all thinking about is success, wanting to be successful. Maybe in this communication, I'm getting a sense of this sword here, seeing something you want and wanting to go directly towards it. And this is fascinating too. There's some kind of conflict here because we have what's at issue, the reverse 9 of materials, 6 of materials. Well, in the reverse, it's the 9 of materials, but we just had the 9 of materials. So, anyways, it's another 9 of materials. It's not successful. We're not working together. We're not taking our turns. This could be like not where like everybody talks at once and nobody listens to each other and nobody takes turns talking and nobody is really genuinely listening. Everyone's just trying to pile on here and talk over each other. The 6 of materials would be working together to achieve something, or taking turns, taking time. This is nice balanced energy, really balanced energy in the upright. But in the reverse like this, we have just this like super imbalanced energy. It could be imbalanced emotions. We have an inability to communicate goals, communicate dreams, communicate needs effectively, waiting for needs to be met and they're not being met. This could also be some bean counting, like you get a petal of rose, you get a petal of rose. Instead of just giving both people roses, we're just going to bean count and basically tear this beautiful thing apart by doling it out piece by piece. So there's something here that's not full of life. It's imbalanced, and maybe there's like an intent for balance, but the way it's being done is basically destroying the thing itself. There's a sense of destruction here rather than creation. There's a sense of unfairness, imbalance. There might be an intent for balance, but the way it's being accomplished is crude and destructive. So in your environment, you have the Justice card. So in your environment, this could actually be the justice system having to interact with the legal and justice system that's going on with you. That could definitely have you in your feels with a lot of fears, because there is a sense of giving up control when we do interact with the justice system. It's a large institution that makes a bunch of decisions for us, supposedly on society's behalf, not necessarily on our behalf, but on society's behalf, and what they view society should be, right? Somebody else has control. The Justice card, this can be the balance coming in, the balance that we're lacking here, the fairness that we're lacking here. This can also be the justice system getting involved in something, and instead of taking some sort of wise, holistic look, just ripping the thing apart. This is reminding me of like Solomon's baby. or the baby where the two parents are saying that I'm the parent and no, I'm the parent, and then this could be a custody battle. And then the Solomon's like, okay, well, we'll just cut the baby in half. And the other one's like, one of the people's like, okay. And the other person's like, whatever, I just would rather it be alive than cut in half. Thank you. And then by that, we know who the real parent is, the person that wants it to survive, even if it's at a cost to themselves. So, so this justice system, there's something in your environment where things might be coming into balance. There might be actual justice coming in here. It also talks about ethics and the ethics of how things are achieved and accomplished. It can also talk a little bit about karma, fairness, balance, karmic justice coming in here. So this could be this has to deal with your environment, what's going on around you, external to you, maybe even not having much specifically to do with you personally. I mean, we've got our feelings and it's affecting you, but it may be completely out of your control and out of your say what goes on here. This also talks about there's all sorts of ways to accomplish what we want to accomplish, and this asks us how are we going to accomplish? Do the means justify the ends? Okay, you want to go here. Which route are you taking? Are you taking the route of light or the route of darkness? Are you taking a route of right action, holy action, balanced action, or are you achieving what you want to achieve by any means necessary? Are you letting your emotions run this show and just getting what you want and getting to that goal? Or are you really being thoughtful and intentional about how you're going to achieve this? So your to-do list, the energy you're supposed to interact with, your area of greatest growth is this 10 of inspiration. This is letting something go. Expectations, not carrying water for somebody else. This is usually expectations that someone has placed on you of how you need to be and how you need to act and how you need to behave. And this is your to-do list, or the energy you're looking for an opportunity to engage with, is letting that go. Some expectation that somebody has of you, something that someone's forcing you to do or trying to manipulate you into doing, and you're done, you've had it, you don't need to do this anymore. So that's the 10 of inspiration. It's the completion. We're done with a situation. So it's time for you to end a situation of obligation, ending a situation. This is a pretty big cycle coming in here because it gets even bigger where we're going. So what you're doing right now is saying no to somebody or something. You're saying, no, it's not going to be like this. No, I'm not doing it your way. No, I have my own intuition. I have my own faith in myself. I have my own thing that I'm here to do, and it's not to serve you, and it's not to do what you're telling me to do, and it's not to fulfill your expectations. Of course, you do that with the justice system, you got a little bit of issues, but you do that with someone around you that's trying to force your hand or make you do something or manipulate you somehow. It's time for that to be over. You never even wanted this job to begin with. You did it as a favor, and that favor has been done, and it's time for you to move on with your own life, with your own intuition, living the way you want to live and not the way you've been told to live, and these expectations of someone else has burdened you with. And you've got your own burdens to carry. You do not need to be carrying someone else's shit. They need to work it through themselves. Like it's not your job. So this is like, yeah, this is really not my job. This is a really good card about putting up boundaries with other people. Like, this isn't my job. This isn't what I'm here to do. You can't tell me what to do. We're equals. We're equal adults here. You have saddled me with work that is not mine to do. You have saddled me with emotions that are not mine. You have saddled me with some sort of obligation. So it's releasing an obligation that you just legally and literally, it's not your obligation. You took it on as a favor, or maybe even unintentionally. You didn't realize you were taking the obligation on. You just were going along with life, and now you're at a moment where you're like, why am I even doing this? This is not even what I wanted. So not just, yeah, letting something go, ending some sort of obligation, some sort of obligation that was never really yours. It's not legally yours. It's not, you just took it on for whatever reason, but maybe work through whatever reason you took that on. Maybe you were afraid of rejection. Maybe you were afraid of criticism. but you took on some obligation that wasn't yours. So you're looking for an opportunity to drop that obligation, that thing that you never said you were even going to do. You just suddenly found yourself doing it. And I like that, suddenly found yourself doing it, because where you're going is this death card. Not actual death. I mean, well, we're all actually going towards actual death. This is an undeniable truth. But transformation, a major transformation, a major change. This is going to lead, you putting up this boundary is going to lead to a huge change, possibly the end of the relationship, possibly, or the end of the situation entirely. It's a big change. This is our only major arc. Oh no, we have justice and we have death. So we have something about fairness and ethics, and then we have dealing with that, and then this huge change. This is a big cycle change, and this is an even bigger cycle change. This is something that is transforming and changing. It feels like a death. It can feel very scary, but it is for the purpose of our growth, our eventual growth. This is, the moment that the caterpillar goes into the cocoon. The cocoon is the caterpillar's coffin, but it's the butterfly's womb, right? So you're heading into a coffin era of ending something. There's a bigger ending here. You're just thinking about right now, your only job is to end an obligation, put up a boundary, stop letting someone else tell you what to do. That's your job right now. Where this goes is much bigger, is a much bigger ending, is a much bigger shift in your life, and a structure in your life ends. It's for the purpose, and always remember that it's for the purpose of a new structure, a better structure, the next structure, not necessarily even better. It's just the life cycle. It's just, this is the cycle of life. There won't be anything wasted. Everything you've learned, everything you've experienced here isn't going to be lost, isn't useless, isn't worthless. It's not like this era and this time was wasted. It's all part of, and then when you emerge, it's all part of it's all part of your life. It's just your life cycle. It's just the way it unfolds. And then this is a very natural pausing point, and then we're going to move on. Everything that we've learned gets recycled and reused into this next cycle. So as always, these can be on a scale of 1 to 10. This is pretty intense reading. But this could be like on a 1 scale, you're just like, hey, yeah, no boss, that's so-and-so's job, not mine. And it's not and then your things change, continue to change. Or this could be like big, you could be talking about a 10 here. So anywhere in between. So Capricorn, I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for your likes, subscribes, and comments.